Good morning and welcome back to another video. I've come to a place that I've done possibly 2-3 videos of before, and that is Tatton Park. And I've come to Tatton Park for one thing, and you guys will already know what that is, and that is we're entering the rut. It's still early season, so we're right at the beginning of October, and ideally you'd probably want to be coming later on in the season. However, the great thing about the rut at this time of the year is that you've got the trees are just starting to change colour, and you've also got the fact that this weekend it's forecast. Just going to watch my feet as I go over a cattle grid. It's forecast to be absolutely fantastic weather. So we've got up nice and early before the park opens, and the aim is to try and get some photographs, possibly with some early morning light, but definitely looking to try and capture some shots with the brown leaves of the trees as the background. So come along for the journey and see what I see. So I found the deer. You can probably hear the planes over the head, which has made it a little bit difficult, but we finally heard them bellowing as well. I've got a fallow deer to my right, stag, and then I've got a very large male red deer stag in amongst the woods, which for me is just ideal. So I'm going to move my way around now, try and get a little bit closer to him and see if we can get some shots. We found several stags now, and they're right over on the other side of the park, which is always sod's law, isn't it, when you've parked up at the other end of the park. You possibly can hear them bellowing. So what we're trying to do now, although we found them, we're on the wrong side of them with regards to the light. So you can probably see my face is illuminated because the sun's rising just in front of me there, and just in front of me is where the stags are. So we're going to do a big loop round to get on the other side of them, so that the light is on the right side of them to get the photograph. So we got into a really good position, much further down with the light in a reasonable position for photographing the deer. And this stag is so sexually charged, he's literally sparring with a tree. I've got some video which I'll pop up on the screen for you now. And he was absolutely racking his antlers over the top of his, into the tree. And then he started to move in our direction, so we moved just to the side. Now you've got to remember, I'm shooting with a 400mm lens, so I'm not close to these animals at all. I'm very respectful and I keep my distance. He came round the corner of the tree and I got a photograph, which I'll pop up on the screen now. And then he took one look at us and charged. Now I've never had that before in a deer park, and I can only think it's because he's quite charged himself, sexually charged. So we beat a hasty retreat. It was we ran. I'm not afraid to admit it. We ran with our tail between our legs. You know, these are huge animals, and those antlers are like spears. They're incredibly sharp. So when he decided to charge at us, I moved well out of the way. I'm not interested in getting that close to these animals at all. I don't think it's right and fair on the animals. It's certainly not safe. So we've backed right the way off now, and we've left him alone, and we're moving our way round to another group of stags which seem to be sparring a little bit. We've now got the light on our backs, which is exactly where I want it to be, and fingers crossed we'll get some shots. But that was terrifying. A question that we've been asked whilst in the park today is the difference between red deer and fallow deer. Now, there are a number of ways that you can tell the two apart. Probably the most easiest and obvious way is size. The red deer is the largest land mammal that we have in the UK, and they're huge. I think they can weigh all the way up to probably about 1/4 of a tonne. So they're a really big animal. But obviously, size is only an easy way to tell them apart if you've got the two together. So the other ways that you can tell them apart is coloration. Red deer, by their very name, have got a reddish brown coat. Fallow deer are much, much lighter in colour. You do get some leucistic variations of the fallow deer that are almost pure white. And then the other big difference that you can tell at this time of year is with regards to their antlers. The fallow deer's antlers are plate-like, and the red deer antler is more forked and pointy. Now, a lot of people think that their antlers are grown to attack other male deer, and that's not actually the case at all. It would be counterproductive for a red deer to have to fight off all its opponents. So the bellowing is the number one way that they'll clear out lesser males. So the louder that they can bellow, the more chance that they have of winning the fight. And as a result of that, many of the lesser stags, once they hear the big males bellow, they back away at that point and leave them be. But if it does get to the point where they've got to have a fight, that fight will often be a test of strength. And the antlers are actually designed to interlock. So they'll come together, they'll interlock their antlers, and then it's a bit like a sumo wrestle. So the idea is to push your opponent, and the stronger, bigger stags are the ones that can push the weaker stags back, and they win that fight. Now, obviously, they do at times escalate into a full-blown blooded fight, and you often see red deer with injuries on them, but it's just not ideal for them to do that. So where at all possible, they'll avoid fighting, and the bellowing and the wrestling is what comes first. So I found myself the perfect stag. He's a big male. He's dark in colouring, which suggests he's probably a little older than some of the other ones. And he's currently making a scrape. And what these stags do is they make a scrape in the floor, and then they pee in it, and then they rub that all over their chest and in their antlers. And they use that as a pheromone to attract the females. So that, along with the bellowing, just brings the females to him. And he's bellowing. He really is. The only problem you've got at Tatton Park, it's not a problem for photography at all, but it is for filmmaking, is we're on the flight path for Manchester Airport. And so as a result of that, there is a lot of noise from planes flying over, which is kind of destroying the audio for him bellowing. And so I'm just kind of switching and focusing more on the photography at the minute. But he's starting to move this way. The light now is beautiful. It's on my back, exactly where I want it to be, and the stag's in front of me, and he's in open meadowland with quite tall grass, but we've got beautiful trees in the background. It's just a shame that those trees are not quite yet in their autumnal colours, and that's probably due to the fact we've got really mild weather. I'm sweating cobs. It is boiling here today. So I'm just going to press on. I'm not going to get any closer, I don't need to. 400mm gives me a nice animal in its environment shot, and then when I want to get a little bit tighter with a portrait, I just flick that teleconverter down, and then I've got the portrait shots. And then if I switch that into DX mode, it's even tighter still. But yeah, the light's just sensational now, so I'm going to crack on and get some photographs. So the final day that I photographed was one that looked like he'd had enough. I think he'd possibly done his battling this morning, he's wrestling with some of the other stags, and he was head down asleep, which was really nice, a different kind of shot really. So probably a little bit of a shorter video than normal. I think that I'm going to definitely return. This is kind of a preliminary trip to Tatton Park, and next time I'll bring Pops along with me. But it was definitely worth getting up early this morning and coming down and seeing these wonderful animals as they begin their annual rut. It's a wildlife spectacle that I absolutely love, and I come every single year. I think I'd love to actually see them up in Scotland, and maybe one time that'll be a trip that I do in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider giving it a like. Subscribe if you've not already done so. I've now got a buy me a coffee page, so if you feel like you want to buy me a coffee or buy me and Pops a coffee, feel free to check out the link on my page, and I'll put the link up on the screen now for you to see. Make sure you keep commenting on my videos. I respond to every single comment, and I love interacting with viewers. And if you see me out and about, please do come and say hello. It's always important to do so. And until next time, ta-ra.